Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having a great day today. Today we're taking a look at the novel The Bull and the Spear by Michael Moorcock. It's the fourth book in the Corum series in the Eternal Champion series for you folks, and it's the first book of the next trilogy for you folks. And so I just knocked it out over the last 3 days for the second time. It is based on Irish mythology and is heavily influenced by Irish mythology for you folks. So if you do a deep dive into Irish mythology, or if you have read an Irish mythology texts, or if you are just general and so forth, then you'll know some of these aspects and some of these words and some of these names of characters and so forth. So what happens at the end of the first trilogy is that, no spoilers, is that Corum wins, obviously, because it was a trilogy, right, and it completed the story, and that was the last thing, and so forth. And now, what's happening at the beginning of this is that, he is the last of his kind, the last fat hag that's left. That happened early on in the first book, in the first couple of chapters. He saw all of his family and everybody else killed. He was tortured. He lost his right eye and his left hand in torture, and then he escaped, and then it was replaced by magical items. And so forth. And so what winds up happening is that he is this key pawn in the war against chaos and law, for law across the plains, and which is called the Eternal Champion series. Which includes all these various people and so forth, right? So at the beginning of this novel, The Bull and the Spear, what winds up happening is that our good hero Corum is called by his descendants, not the fat hag, but the people that the human Mabdans that he married, Rialina and so forth. So her people and her kingdom that he worked for and fought for, because his people had died, right? And they're calling out to him from the future, a few thousand years in the future, and so forth. So he goes and joins them. And they are being the last remnants of this kingdom, and humans are being attacked by invaders, and there are 7 of them, are huge giant-like creatures and so forth. And they have very powerful magics and very powerful things, and very powerful creatures that serve them, like the hounds, and so forth. And so he is there to relieve the siege, and to fight the war and so forth for the future descendants of his wife. And so that's the key core concept of what's going to be happening for the next 3 novels. So what's going to be happening in this novel is that he needs to go find this magical spear, which is an artifact level of power. Then he needs to use it to tame this magical bull, and then use those 2 to fight. So that's what he's going to be doing, and then that's where this novel gets its name, The Bull and the Spear, from. So I'll go ahead and leave you to it. It's about 4 or 5 chapters into this 150-page novel. I read it in 3 days. The first day I knocked out 54 pages and finished a chapter. So my goal is to do 50 pages a day, but I did 5. I finished at 54 pages, and then I it was about an hour and 15-20 minutes or so, a little less than an hour and a half, and then I did 56 pages the next day and finished page 110, and then the next one began at page 113, because it was the end of one of the 3 books. And so there were a couple of page counts and so forth. And then the last one finished last night in about an hour. So it was pretty fast. I knocked it out pretty quickly. You could probably do it in a day with one sitting and so forth. But 3 days of time to knock out this novel, The Bull and the Spear, for you. So what's my rating of it? I liked it. I thought it did some fun things. I had some interesting things to say about Corum and taking him into some different directions from the previous trilogy. I like that too. Removing him from his characters and his support characters and stuff like that. I like that. But what I don't like, and no spoilers obviously, are 2 of the things that happen near the endings in regards to this bull and the spear that are his objects of quest. I'll leave it to you there. If you want to talk about more in the spoilers below, we can. But I don't want to give you a spoiler-based review, right? And then tell you why I'm only going to be giving this a 7 out of 10 when I gave the previous novels each 8s out of 10. It's well written. It's fast. It won't take that much of your time. That's one of the good things about reading Michael Moorcock's older stuff. It doesn't take a whole lot of your time to read an entire novel. I read the entire trilogy the first trilogy in the Corum series in about 7 days. So it was about a week long. And now the first book and the next one is just a 3-day read. So it's pretty fun and pretty quick. But the next couple are also about 150 pages level, roughly. I looked at them last night. So it'll probably take me about 3 days each too. So about 9 days total. About 50 pages a day. The next novel is The Oak and the Ram. So that's the next one. And so anyway, so this one again is The Bull and the Spear. It's the first one. I'll link you to in the comments below. Have you read it? If so, what'd you think about it? Let's talk about it in the comments below. As a reminder, this channel's name, The Worst Thing About New Books, is a quote by a French philosopher named Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about them was that they kept us from reading the old books, right? This is definitely an old book, written decades ago, that we've been and I've heard about and so forth. This is in Michael Moorcock's Eternal Champion series he started writing in the 50s. It's an epic fantasy series that's heavily influential in modern. It created sort of this concept of the law versus chaos, which a lot of people have used. Like Roger Zelazny's Chronicles of Amber have used this law versus chaos essential conflict rather than good versus evil. But there you are. In fact, this was so influential and became such the dominant arbiter of the central conflict, right? Law versus chaos in this case, that it became the default alignment system, lawful, chaotic, or neutral, in the first role-playing game that was based in the 70s called Dungeons and Dragons, which was co-created by by Gary Gygax. And Gary Gygax, by the way, has in a 1979 edition of the first edition of Dungeons and Dragons, AD&D, he actually has an appendix N, that lists this as one of the key influences. This author in the series. It's one of the key influences on the game and where he got a lot of his ideas from and so forth. So it's credited in the reference check. And also a place to go for inspiration too. So that's kind of cool too. He's definitely influential. Lots of people love his stuff. Probably the most common and popular of his Eternal Champions and other people too is Elric, of Melnimity. There's also very similar to Corum. They're both people that are from an elven race. He's of the Melnimity people, and Corum's of the Vedic, and so forth. And actually, they'll count each other in the third novel in the first trilogy. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, so there you are. I'll go ahead and leave you to it. If you enjoyed this, why not hit that subscribe button? There's going to be a lot more ways to follow. And then finally, I just want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video, because we all have so many things that are happening in our lives. I'm pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling. So I appreciate it. Thanks again, and have an amazing day.